You and I will spend money doing it. All right. And welcome to the Writer's Life, place where you get the sights. No. Uh-oh. Writer's Life, take two. Welcome to the Writer's Life, place where you get the sights, sounds, smells, tastes of my particular writer's life, and where you get the truth. And somebody's got a truck outside their house. I think it's got to be Big Philly. The wife's home. God damn it, why is there food on the table? Vince, I gotta go. Oh shit. All right, we're already starting in. So subscribe if you haven't already, and punch the like button. And tap the bell gently, like you're tapping your girlfriend or boyfriend's buttocks. During those private moments. Anyway, so we're here for our Philly or Big Phil. What would you call this? This is our pre. It's not like actually we're waiting for results. It's more like we're
Vince. I mean, I have to stop you right there. I mean, I know you're.
I haven't even introduced you yet.
Though, listen, I'm known everywhere, all over the world. Right. I'm known. I'm the most famous. No,
this guy's the best.
Yeah. No, I'll introduce myself. We're just hanging out, man.
All right. Who are you?
Before. My name is Philip Smith, believe it or not witness protection. I go by Big Philly just as like an internet thing. Some of my cigar buddies started that because I'm a big fat guy and my name's Philip and my family calls me Philly. And I'm also happy to be from Philadelphia. But as you can see from the background, I live inside of Gallow's Humor magazine. It's a giant magazine. I actually live in it. But no, I'm an assistant editor and writer at Gallow's Humor magazine, which we have a website and we're on Substack, and we have a print on demand magazine, other things to come. We're, working out some stuff for a podcast too, by the way, with all sorts of humor. It's mildly offensive humor and commentary is how we describe it.
We like offensive.
Yeah, you could subscribe for free on if you download the Substack, whatever the hell it's called, app. It's totally free. We go to gallowshumormag.com. You can also do a paid subscription to get into our back catalog and stuff. And we just, I don't know. It's put out by Gutter Books, which is ran by my good buddy Matthew Lewis, who Gutter Books was primarily a crime fiction indie publishing house and featured a lot of great books, including 2 novels by Matthew Lewis himself, The Wrong Man and Roots Down to Hell. And for anybody watching, that's how I got into this. And I'm sorry if you heard it before, but what the fuck, you're going to hear it again. I've read his novels. They're noir, hard-boiled, gritty, and non-woke. It would be like the old gold medal paperbacks taking place today. Very similar to you, Vince. Like I've read a bunch of your books. So we started correspondence, and he had this great idea. So we both write on it, edit, and we put out a ton of content. Even though this is it started as a passion project, but we have a few thousands. We have thousands of subscribers, and we put out a lot of.
You do.
Yep.
You're blossoming like crazy.
Yeah,
I love it.
We love it, and we appreciate your support, and because I can speak for myself too, and Matthew would agree, I'm sure. But like, you're just a cool dude. You're you were early on in the. You have the pre-indie publishing bona fides, and then you were an early mover in getting started on the indie side. You don't give a fuck. You do what you want to do, and I admire that. And your fiction, I've read a bunch of your books. I haven't read them all because I think you publish 3 to 5 new novels a day.
There's no way you can.
Yeah, but you use your voice. You're not afraid about, you don't, if anybody's watching this that hasn't read a Vincent Zandri book, or a book by Matthew Lewis or anybody, like, you guys you're not going to read when you pick up a Xandri book, it's not going to be a 5'4" young blossoming lesbian who beats up a dragon and like it's not. It's old school. It's going to be good, Tarantino-esque, Elmore Leonard, but your own style. You're not like derivative. I don't want to give the wrong idea, but I think it's a damn good read, because the number one complaint I hear from people nowadays, like just buddies talking, is how everything is woke. TV's woke, music's woke, the friggin' news. People just want to be entertained. Like, that's why most of the TV shows I watch now are old. Like last year, my big thrill on my lunch break from work is I would watch Taxi. Friggin' Taxi. Like, for me, I was like, whoa, look how edgy.
I remember that show when it was real, before it became
live.
Yeah.
So what this is, I got it. Typical, Philadelphia East Coast guy, half Italian. I didn't answer the question from 10 minutes ago. This is our what I've been following on the news is here in the United States, Election Day. It looks like we'll start to get some early polling numbers in around 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah,
so
I'm looking now.
Yeah, and we'll get exit poll. I always like the exit poll questions. I'm 45. I voted in every election since I was 18, and nobody ever approached me outside of and said, hey, a couple questions for our exit polls. Like, I don't even think they're real. No one's ever been like, how do you feel about abortion and recycling?
I know. Have you ever been, they keep talking about these polls.
Right.
Like, and I'm not the first one to say this, like Rogan says it and all this, all these. Like, who's got the fucking time to answer the phone? Like, oh yeah, I'll listen. I'll answer your questions.
Or if you do it, Vince, it's like you're fucking with them. Like when you get these Indian telemarketers, and you might, like, sometimes if I'm bored, I'll fuck with them a little bit and talk and be like, oh yeah, like I had a guy call me on Christmas Day one time, and he goes, oh, hello. He's like, because you are such a good taxpayer, you are entitled to United States government $10,000 for free grant. And I said to him, like, oh, wow. Now, first of all, I owed back taxes, but I'm like, hey, I go, listen, you realize it's Christmas, right? I said, yes, I am knowing that it is. We wanted
right. Hello, good morning, Smith Philly.
Yes, I am calling you for
how's
this.
The karma going?
So I fuck with them. So if someone called and said, I'm from the political, it probably has some fake bullshit name. Like, I'm calling from the Eastern Political Alliance of whatever, misinformation. I would like to know. Like, I'm just going to be like, fuck off, or mess with them. Like, yes. Like, I'd lie. I'd be like, I'm a 19-year-old transgender cyclist.
Right.
And here's what I believe. I'm voting for Trump. Like, just to mess with them. But
yeah.
So we'll get that, Vince. One of the funny things is they always said ever since 2000, like, people, this is ancient history now, but the hanging Chads and Bush v. Gore and all that shit. I remember the media were like, oh, we're so like, they actually back then admitted, took some fault. They're like, we're so sorry we rushed to judgment. We're going to wait till every vote's counted from now on. We're never going to mislead it. They literally, and then even today, they're like, we may not know the results for weeks. They will 100% tonight at some point announce a winner. They do it all the time. Oh, do you like, what are your thoughts?
I don't think it's going to be that hard for one of the candidates to hit 270 pretty fast.
Right.
I have a strong feeling that it's going to be our buddy Mr. Trump, but she could too. I don't know, but it depends on so many factors that neither one of them are in control of, that these shadow people are in control of.
Right.
And that's what, altogether. Hey, Tim. Hey, Livingstone. We got Texas and we have Colorado.
Nice.
Here right now.
We know where their vote, what color they'll be, but.
Well, Tim's a friend of mine, and we were in bands together years ago, and I know where he stands. But and he'll tell us what his opinion are. But one thing we definitely both agree on is that, like, who knows who's pushing the buttons, Phil? Who knows who knows who's really running the show? I mean, this is a global thing. This isn't just the States. I'm not putting a tinfoil hat on or anything.
No, you know what though? But see, I gotta be honest, and we gotta that's the thing, man. It's like that the tinfoil hat and the conspiracy theory, they have us conditioned to where if you question anything, you feel self-conscious, like, oh, am I being crazy? And I think that's on, in fact, I know that's on purpose because, we just lived through COVID. That was an insane thing that happened, right?
It was insane.
And it was so insane that I'm not going to relive it all because I fucking, just like everybody else has a diagnosis, I totally have PTSD from that nonsense. And my thing is, it's like, what the fuck am I trying to say? If we live through COVID, anything is believable now. That's what I was trying to say. Like, nothing sounds too, because think about it. Imagine if in November of 2019, somebody would have said to you, hey, there's going to be a virus that's going to come from overseas and the entire country will shut down.
Right.
You'll be forced to wear a mask. There's going to be, the grocery store is going to look like Venezuela. Like just et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You would have been like, all right, come on, dude. You'd be like, come on, like relax, man. Like you're cut off at the bar. Like if you were talking to the bartender, you're like, hey, you know what I think is going to happen in a couple months?
What's funny is I remember I was with my girlfriend up in Lake Placid when did it start? It started
in the news. It was in the news in the late.
It was in the news. Like, was it 19 or 20 that it
19?
Started?
Like it was it was like an interest story. Like, oh, by the way,
right?
Like,
she and I were in a bar, like a biker bar in the only one left in Lake Placid that had a pool table, and we're playing pool, and like the news comes on a little bit, and I'm sort of paying attention to it. And she's a cop, or was a cop.
Right.
She might chime in, who knows? But and I'm looking at it, and they're like, like they're piling up caskets, and there's a disease. This is when they were sort of still telling the truth, or at least snippets of the truth. And they're like, and now there's worry that this thing's going to spread globally, and they quickly squelched all that.
Right.
And I remember turning to her and saying, this is not going to be good. This is going to be bad. And, we went on and like got drunk and had a great night. And skied and shit like that. And
I thought it was bullshit. Like, I didn't care. It was just a background news. Like, I was worried about just paying my bills. I had just, started a new job. But similarly, I remember my brother, the first signs of anything, like the stock market took a dip in I want to say December or January. And I remember my brother telling me, he's like, hey, that shows you this COVID thing is going to be pretty bad because these are the people that are in those shadow people you're talking about. They're the ones that play in that sandbox. So if there's like a sell-off, they know they're ahead of.
Oh, they know.
They know. Yeah, and that's not a big leap conspiracy-wise to be like, hey, some hedge fund guy who's a zillionaire is going to have contacts, bureaucrats, pharma guys, whoever, who's going to be like, hey, Vince, hedge fund Vince, like while you're playing golf, by the way, there's going to be this whole COVID shit. And another thing is this, man, this brings us right back to the election, which is Trump. This is unscientific, but I get the energy of 2016 right now because Trump is back to his game, which is shaking hands, kissing babies, and having the big rock star rallies.
Right.
We didn't have this in 2020. We were beaten to submission by everything we had to endure.
Right.
And I think a lot of people on Trump's side just stayed home. And frankly, just to promote Gallow's humor, Matthew Lewis wrote a bit on Trump a few weeks ago about how, like, hey, maybe maybe he's bullshit too. But he pointed out some of the things Trump dropped the ball on, which I'll defend Trump. I think that Trump as a lame duck president would be really, really powerful because he's not. There's no holds barred. But yeah, like I think some people were frustrated because they're like, it was very disheartening that we have that Trump every single day platformed Fauci and they were kind of sparring. And it's like, you're known for firing people, just fire them. Like,
right.
Not to be too, like, I really do want to move on from COVID, like in my life. Cause I can't believe, like, there's a lot of stuff I didn't comply with, but there's a lot of stuff I did. And I'm just like, man, like the churches, like, I can't believe, like, I'm a Catholic. I was doing good going to mass for all my many, many sins. And then all of a sudden the bishops were like, yeah, it's not, you know what? It's okay. You don't have to come. It's COVID's more scary. And I'm thinking, okay, like have a little faith. I don't know.
I mean, YouTube's going to totally fuck with our.
Oh yeah, we're done.
You know, because we said
I'm waiting
COVID,
for a sniper bullet to hit me in the ear any second.
Yeah. But this will be on Twitter, guys.
Nice.
And wherever else I could put it, but they said in the end it was something like 0.2% of the population actually died from it, or something like that, or it was just if you died of a heart attack,
right?
In the hospital, they would say like, well, COVID.
Yeah,
and then the hospital would get money for that.
Oh yeah. I can tell you two. Well, one is I very sadly lost my dad in October of 2020 from lung cancer. Yeah, it's tough. He was a great guy. God rest his soul. Real old school guy, nice guy. Didn't have a big mouth like me, strong, silent type. But he was hospitalized much of the time and had to get procedures and stuff. And he was tested for COVID like a zillion times. I lost count. I think my brother said it was something like 20 times. But the thing is, all negative. Now, I guarantee you, if one of those would have been positive, guess what my dad would have died from? It wouldn't have been the lung cancer. It would have been, and I also, a cigar buddy of mine who I didn't know at the time, but he hangs out at the lounge where I'm a member. He told me he got COVID like late 2020 and he was hospitalized. It hit him hard. He basically got pneumonia from it, is the reality. But he told me every day he would get worse and worse. He was in intensive care. And finally they said, we want to put you on a ventilator. And he said,
one
no.
thing you can't do.
He said, no. And they're like, what do you mean no? You ever tell a doctor no, by the way? They look at you like, who the hell do you think you are?
Yeah, I just spent a week in the hospital 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, you had massive surgery. I'm glad to see you. Of course, you're out like bench pressing like 250 pounds like nothing happened.
I had lung surgery. It was one of the most humiliating experiences of my life, although the people were great.
Yeah.
They were absolutely great. It was the first time I ever spent time in the hospital.
Right.
And it's amazing how like you get to walk around with your ass hanging out and stuff.
Yeah. CIA's there already, folks.
I thought one of my sons was named, but it was.
I spent a
while. You give up, and it's like some young lady walks in, and I'm like, well, you've seen an old dude naked before, so I'm like,
we're all over the place, but people are just gonna have to put up with it. I mean, fuck it. There's other TV shows you can watch. Dude, I was in the hospital in 2021. I'm diabetic. I had pancreatitis.
Oh, no way.
From just eating like an animal and everything. Whatever.
Right. And, what'd you think of the food? What'd you think of the food?
In the hospital? Well, they wouldn't feed me for the first. I was in there exactly a week. They wouldn't feed me till like day 5. But I don't know. It wasn't. It's funny. I'm diabetic.
Where's Big Philly? Oh, someone just saw him at the Dunkin' Donut with his ass hanging out.
I enjoyed the fucking the medicine was very powerful. I was like,
oh yeah, that's the good part.
They were giving me like the oxys and Dilaudid and all this.
Yeah. Of course, you can't take a dump for.
That's the whole getting home from the hospital was the worst. I was like crying in a corner, like fucking in withdrawal because they sent me home and said,
just let me go a little bit.
Yeah.
Just please.
I'm telling you, I am not. I just want to say, and it's not just because my oldest son is watching, but I never like did any drugs, any bad drugs, like
Right.
you know. But I'll tell you, when you're in a lot of pain, and they were giving me the good stuff, I felt awesome. And I told the chick, the one nurse, like real pretty nurse, of course, and she comes in. I said to her, "Listen, honey," she's shooting me up with I said, "Listen, honey," I'm like, "I understand why people sleep on the sidewalk for this. Like, I feel no pain. But you mentioned the embarrassment. I'm sitting there. I guess this is one thing where it's good to have a wife. I'm divorced. I had like no clothes, so I'm like rotting in the same fucking boxer briefs for a week. And they gave me this jug to piss in. They're like, "Oh, we don't want you to get up. You got a lot of wires. Just piss in the jug." And the nurse.
Wait, hang on 1 second. I have a show and tell.
Oh, nice. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, the presidential piss jug is incoming. Oh boy, here we go.
This is what Billy's talking about.
Yeah, it's a fleshlight of piss, basically.
Right. You're supposed to put your cack right in there.
Yeah, the gas.
And I would get stuck. And so I'd be trying to pull it back out. And they'd be saying, "Oh, you must be Italian then, huh?"
Yeah, like,
no, they wouldn't say that. But it'd be like they'd hand it to you and they'd be like, "All right, go." And I'd be like, "I can't go. I have stage fright. You're staring at me. I can't possibly go in this thing."
Well, if the nurse is really pretty, you're like, "Oh, I might give you a sample of it." But I'll tell you what, dude. What happened was the one night I was so high on the medicine they gave me that in the middle of the night it's like dark. I'm blind without my glasses. I'm fucking completely blind. I took the jug and I just like tried to, it's like when a F-16 refuels in mid-flight, trying to sync up. I just started pissing everywhere. Like I literally just pissed.
It was all over. Yeah. Oh, look at me.
So I gotta tell you, I woke up the next day and the nurse is like, "Oh, this whole room stinks," and I just felt like the lowest form of humanity ever.
Right.
Oh, side note, since I'm making fun of myself, I promised my son when I was on your show months ago.
Right.
And I remember you were talking about, "Hey, I'm the author, blah, blah, blah." You were doing the intro. And I mostly read your stuff on paper in Kindle, but I held up the paperback during the introduction, like just as a weird little. My kids, I got a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old. They have busted my balls nonstop, saying that was, as the kids say now, it was sus. They basically said I'm like queer for, like, they're like, that was so embarrassing. The guys introducing you, and now my sons, they constantly go, "Big Philly's got the book. Oh, look, Big Philly's got the book." Like, they're like, "Dad, what were you doing? You look like an asshole." But I encourage them to bust balls because that's a lost art. That's why we have the masculinity crisis.
Right.
Yeah, got a lot of people in the chat.
Are the same separate?
Oh, really? 3 years?
Separation in years.
Nice.
And they're attached at the hip, but they used to give them the same shit. But now they're in their 30s,
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. My kids, it's cool age difference. Like, the way they bust each other's balls but get along. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. I love being a dad. But
I just want to announce that we have the highest ranking New York State trooper, female state trooper, watching us right now, Colonel Mary Clark.
Wow, it's
and she says Trump all the way. You should see this woman shoot.
Oh, you know what? And Mary probably could talk about this for hours as such an experienced cop. But when I learned to shoot, the first time I went to the range with my buddies, they showed me some safety stuff, and then I shot and I couldn't hit anything. Then I got lessons and I found out, even though I'm right-handed, I'm left eye dominant. Once I found out that, I like hit the target. It improved the shooting unbelievably because I was just like, but I haven't shot in a while because ammo is so expensive. I don't want to like waste it, but
yeah. That's where they're getting us with the ammo. But she was the one at the biker bar,
right? Nice. She can confirm
all those years ago, and she reminded me. She's like, "You said it. You called it. COVID was going to be a big problem.
Absolutely, man. And you know what? It served.
But they made it a problem because the left. And again, I'm like a libertarian guy, but
Right.
I'm like what Mailer. What did Mailer call himself? He called himself a conservative liberal in that he was like littlest government possible,
Right.
but save the whales, kind of.
Yeah. But the thing, what people don't realize is like, if you're conservative, it's like if you have the freedom, you have the safety, you have the strong economy, well, then
Right.
you're going to
And
have
now you don't have you have the First Amendment, you have the Second
right.
Amendment.
First
Like what the
Amendment.
hell is? I mean, I used to be more left leaning up
Me
until
too.
like a few years ago. I mean, and
Well,
now it's like it's I don't get it. Like they're on
I'll
this
tell you.
side of tyranny. They're on almost. I don't want to say Bolshevism because it's not Bolshevism, but
Yeah,
it's
not yet.
definitely like got Marxism in there, and
Yeah,
it's we don't like the First Amendment, we don't like the Second Amendment,
it's the
we like
speech
big
thing.
wars, we like all
Yeah.
that stuff. It's like what the hell's going on here?
Well, so like when I was in college, I thought I was pretty left wing, but it was mostly I besides the brainwashing in college at a big state university, it was
Right.
some of it was, and so let me word it differently. There are some issues that I've legitimately just moved to the right on, just through life and experience and whatever, right?
Right.
But a lot of issues I haven't. I was thinking about this the other day. I haven't moved at all. It's like Bobby Kennedy Jr. would say, like the left moved on it, not me.
The left
For
did, yeah.
example, I didn't like the neocon big war bullshit wars, right? And I
Right,
still
right,
don't. But that
right,
used to be a thing that was like, oh, George W. Bush, he wants to bomb. Now it's the opposite, where they're like,
right,
oh yeah, let's just piss away all our money to Ukraine and
right.
here and there, and let's, like they're the ones that moved. I didn't move. I didn't like the wars then. I don't like them now. But now suddenly that makes. Did you ever think, Vince, in your lifetime, you would have the Republican candidate being the one that says, like, give peace a chance, basically?
No,
Like,
never,
think about it.
never. I mean, because you're coming from an idiot. I'm coming, meaning me. I mean, I bought into like all Bush Jr.'s bullshit,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like it turned out like he was a Democrat, and like
Right,
and like that whole war was a crime. The second Iraqi war,
right, right. It
the
was,
weapons of mass destruction, they fucking created a war, and he should be strung up for it. Well, oh, sorry, YouTube, this is entertainment only. Just
yeah.
I'm being like a fiction writer. But like I bought into his bullshit. And I bought into like the mainstream media bullshit at the time too.
Right.
It was and now with independent media and the legacy media being so exposed for what they are as activists, now it's like I can't believe anybody in the world would trust these people other than you got to be 60 and up. And they're like, oh, we're going to turn on Rachel Maddow and we'll
Yeah,
see
I
what
I
you
work
know.
as a waiter now, which should be its own podcast or book. I should write a book about that. And I one of the cool things, I'm a people person, but I get to talk to people, but I also overhear stuff. And I remember exactly what you just said. This was about 5 months, maybe 6 months ago. I was cleaning a table at the end of the night, and to the right of me is a party of like six old ladies, like early 70s. And I swear this is verbatim quote. I hear them like chattering, and
Right.
the one like above the rabble, it sounds like you're in like a fucking kennel somewhere. The one old lady goes, exact word for word. She goes, and this Trump, he already said the first thing he's going to do is tear up the Constitution.
Right.
And you're
Where
like,
did they
where
get
the
that from?
fuck did this idiot get? That's like right up there with like when I was a kid. They're like, don't watch your food heat up in the microwave. Your fucking brain of like, it's just where did this fucking broad hear that from? That is so
Oh my
absurd.
God.
First of all, let's pretend he wanted to do that. Would he
Right.
fucking say that? Like,
Right.
take a step back and be like, well,
Right.
maybe Trump would say that. See, that's another thing too. If Trump wanted to be Hitler, the great it's as the young kids would say too, it's like cringe how they call him Hitler. It's like
Right.
that's the most lamest. That's like the your mama's fat of like disses in politics. Like you're Hitler, but
Yeah,
Trump
the
of all
whole
people would he would just
Madison
tell
Square
you,
Garden, the
yeah,
whole
he would
Madison
just
Square
tell
Garden
you,
rally, like, it's
right.
the Nazi rally from 1939 again. Like, meanwhile, like, how many Democratic conventions did they have there? And what
Right,
I mean, it
and
was
look,
just silly anyway.
it's
I mean, just
stupid.
stupid.
It's so stupid.
You know,
It's like, and also we should probably talk about. And by the way, Timothy, I see your comments, and I think
yeah.
your
Tim's got a good take here.
Tim, your take on if anybody can't see the chat, he said, we may be seeing the end of a 200-year experiment. I guess meaning the liberal democracy here in the
Yeah, read
U.S.
this off. This is good.
The reality, as I see it, is self-government is contrary to human nature. People are intellectually lazy. Um, you know, I don't know if it could happen, but the best form of government would be like a benevolent king. Basically, God comes down and rules. So
Right.
maybe, I mean, I'm not a learned guy in history, but I'm not sure what we have here. We don't even have a real. What pisses me off is we don't even have a real free market. So it's like we pretend to have capitalism and we pretend to have democracy, and it's
Right.
like go try being a capitalist. I don't know.
Right. Right. And of course, we're not a democracy. We never have been.
No,
We're a
we're not a
republic, of
democracy.
course.
We don't.
We're like
You
Rome,
can, you can like,
ancient Rome.
yeah, and even then, it's like that didn't stay. Most of the people were disenfranchised. They didn't have a say like your average guy.
Plus, they
They
only lived to be like 34 if they were lucky.
yeah, that's another thing too. They
Like,
had
oh,
like
we have to go see my great grandfather. He just turned 34.
yeah, exactly. I
Oh,
mean, I
oh,
don't even,
you're a 14-year-old, young lady. You're not pregnant yet with your
yeah,
husband.
yeah,
What is
right.
going on?
Old
Like
maid.
that's
You're a
just the way
spinster
it was.
at 16. Yeah. But
You
you
know,
know what I think too, though? Like, this is part of my thing whenever they talk about the school shootings and stuff, and they're like, oh, we got to get rid of guns. This goes to Tim's point or Timothy. It's the world is a violent, dangerous place, and it
right,
sucks, and it's always sucked. That's the thing. Like,
right.
everyone's like, we're at this cataclysmic point. Oh, how would you like to go to your
Keep going.
ancestors in like medieval Europe? I'll just talk to the audience since he's taking a leak or some shit. But how would you like to just live in a feudal fucking shithole alley in medieval Europe, getting plagued by rats biting you and your
Right.
children in cribs? Like, basically, the world has always sucked. We've
It's
only had this kind of relative comfort in the last
right.
like century, maybe.
Too true. Too true.
Yeah,
I mean, like for a guy who I spent enough time in medieval places every year
yeah,
to
yeah.
know exactly what it was like,
Right.
and just emptying your bowels in
Yeah,
certain
that's right. You
places.
throw a fucking. You'd walk down the
I
street.
mean, it just created problems for other people. Cholera, whatever. The most organized
Right.
place for something like that I've seen is ancient Rome and ancient um, Turkey.
Right.
They actually had, like, if you had a little downhill, you could put like a series of toilets there that still work.
Turks.
And and they had nice apartments across the street. And you could see where like it would work. The only problem is it's like, we'll go downhill and get some water for the day, honey.
You know
You know,
what, dude? My buddy,
oh, geez, look at this thing.
I
Otherwise,
have my best friend from law school is a Russian dude, which shouldn't be a surprise. I'm a Russian collusion. No, he loves America. He fled Russia because he's, uh, he was the Soviet Union. But anyway, he told me in college, he went to Penn just like Elon and Donald Trump, and he said he stayed in like the international dorms, and he told me this is like we were drinking one night, and he goes, Turks. This is modern day. This isn't medieval. He's like Turks. Hey, what's up, Frank?
oh, Frank. Hi,
I'll
Mary.
plug
Good
your
comment.
book. Yeah, Mary's right. That she doesn't get Kamala, we'll get to her casting couch, Kamala's prosecution days, and Frank wrote a great book too. I forget the name of it, but it's a short story collection. I read it. It's very good.
I haven't gotten to it yet, but I know it's
Twilight Zone. I think it's called Grind, Frank. You can put it in the chat.
Yeah,
man.
it's Grind.
It's a good book. But,
almost positive.
But I was going to say, my buddy told me that Turks, he's like, when Turks shit, they don't use toilet paper. He said he saw a Turk. They carry a bucket of water down to like the men's room. And he said they do. He said they take their bare hand and wipe their ass, and then they rinse it off in a bucket. And he said his Turkish buddy was like bragging to him, like, "Oh yeah, look at this! I don't have to worry about toilet, but I got the bucket."
Oh. Yeah, if you hit up a men's room, I go to North Africa a lot, like different countries, whatever. I love North Africa, and I absolutely love the Muslim people and the food and the culture and absolutely love it. I love going back to like whether it's Morocco or Egypt or Turkey, of course, but Turkey's more Europe in my opinion. But any of these places that I'll go to, I have never had an issue, and I'm absolutely fascinated with the culture and whatever. And but yeah, they're not big into the toilet paper, and so like if you use a public restroom,
you got a BYOT.
They'll be like, do you need some toilet paper, or whatever. That's my Indian accent. But I don't travel without a roll of toilet paper because that is rookie mistake. Rookie mistake number one.
I'm glad you brought.
No matter where you go, Phil.
Vince, I always wanted to talk to you about this because I follow your channel and read. So one of the things we don't have in common, and you could call me a pussy if you want, I have like zero interest in leaving the U.S. And it's like
that's just your thing, man.
But it's so funny. Like I love watching you. Like I think it's cool that you have that authenticity. Like Italy looked good. I would go there. I'm half Italian. See the old country.
You're welcome to visit anytime.
But I'll tell you what's funny. I saw you in Egypt and you're crawling in the fucking catacombs and you got hurt.
Dude,
and I'm like,
that was rough.
What's this guy doing? Like I sounded like a Woody Allen here, like Sal. If anybody remembers the Jerky Boys, Sal. I'm like, oh my god, he's down in the catacombs. He's gonna hurt himself so bad. I can't watch it.
Dude, it was. I mean, I'm 5'7", and at the time, I was 180 pounds. Maybe a little more. And I had to like, because back then, 5,000-6,000 years ago, I happen to think it's older because it's the Saqqara pyramids that you saw me in. I've been to the others too, but the others are like Disneyland now. But the Saqqara pyramids, nobody's there, and they just set up like little scaffoldings for you to climb up and get there. And there's like two Arabs in robes there, like give us cash and we'll let if you're stupid enough to go down there.
Man, I would need like a bottle of Xanax and like
and then you come and so like I'm like, well, I'm doing it, of course. I'm not coming all this way. And the further down you go, it's like 100 meters or something. It's not like easy. And the smell and the batshit gas of thousands upon thousands of years of just bat dung. You can't breathe. You literally can't breathe. And then like, okay, so I do that. You're soaked with sweat. You climb up and you get like halfway after it, and you're just like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. But you have to do it. And because even the next cold beer is worth climbing one of those.
Yeah, you've been everywhere, man. I follow your trips. I saw you. Where were you on the boat? You were on like it was like a boat.
That was the
laptop. Morocco, North Africa, right?
Oh, maybe Morocco. Yeah.
Yeah, you were on.
The last one was Egypt, maybe, but also India.
Yeah, man. I don't know. India. I've heard
we did cross country, and me and three people went cross country from Nepal all the way to Delhi. It took like 2.5 weeks.
Oh
in
my God.
a 4-wheel drive, cracked windshield, and I got like dysentery halfway through it, and then
Oh,
I almost,
yeah.
and then I had the bright. We were on the river, up,
That's what
the
you're talking.
Ganges up above,
Yeah.
Varanasi, which is Varanasi is just, it's just it's disgusting, right? But I mean, it's a really cool place, but it's a very holy place. But it was so fucking hot, dude. It was
Yeah.
June. It had to be 130 in the shade Fahrenheit. And I'm like, let's go in. It was me, an English girl, a Australian girl, and just like a guide. And then we had another boat that was like the kitchen boat,
Yeah.
just 2 small boats. And I'm like, let's go in. And we stripped down, and they're like, all right. And the water was clean there. And they actually had the Ganges actually has like a little, it's so clean. They actually have dolphins, like these
Oh, really?
little river dolphins, which was really cool. Anyway, we're swimming, and some of it is just, it's so shallow. You just grab the floor of the river,
Right.
and then other parts are really deep. And so we get to one part that's really deep, and I'm swimming. I got like my Indiana Jones shirt on and just my boxers, and I'm like, I'm not a great swimmer because I'm muscle bound and all that sort of shit, or I was at the time. And I'm like halfway, to wherever there's a sandbar, because the other people naturally went ahead of me. And I'm
Right.
like, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. So I'm maybe going to go back, but I'm like, I can't go back because it's the same distance.
Oh,
And so it was the first time I'm like, I'm going to die. And
it's just like
I
resigned
literally,
death.
I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
And like, just like they say, I was like, all fear left my body.
Yeah, you were ready to go, and
I was
shit
ready to go, but I was like, how ironic that I come to India and I'm going to die in the fucking Ganges, right?
You'd be reincarnated as one of those fucking cows that people like bathe
Yeah,
with and
yeah,
whatever. Like,
yeah, right. Like this is it, and you're conscious of it, right?
yeah.
Luckily, I found like a sandbar to stand on, and it turns out like the guide was like, "Oh yeah, I swam in college," and the other girl was like, "Yeah, I swam in college too," and I was like, "Oh, thanks for the help,"
Yeah, right.
whatever.
Pros. Yeah, the
But it was nice seeing her in a thong.
yeah, but well, of course,
Us
man.
sexist would say.
Yeah, well, now you could see that just walking into a convenience store here. They're out in pub. But it's funny in the background. I had the local, because again, I'm in Pennsylvania, which is ground zero. I'm in the suburbs of Philadelphia. And
Right.
the local news tonight, the entire local news was just a propaganda fest about how, oh, we've gotten so much better in Pennsylvania counting mail in votes. And they show this like pristine warehouse that's well lit, and they're like,
Right.
and this is the station where the ballots come in at, and they're just trying to really convince you, like, now,
And there's a problem now. Like they're already having a problem, aren't they?
but you know what they said? Well, here's one of the things they said, which I thought was interesting. They said that in 2020 there were around 500,000 mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania, but now they project it's going to be only 200,000. So does that mean they're not going to stuff the 300,000? Like, I don't know what, this mail-in shit and everything. I do know people, I will say this. I know a lot of people who told me they did live early voting. So I'm not 100% sure how it works out, like all the steps, but it sounds like there were designated times where you could go to a courthouse in your county, go in and vote just like you would on election day. It's secure.
Right.
So, I mean, if I would do something, it would be something like that instead
Right.
of, but they said, I'm now seeing a ticker on NBC. It says 7 minutes until the first poll closings.
I'm seeing it too, including Georgia.
Yep. So we might get some shit. Exit
Watch.
poll. Is this the first year you've ever voted? 94% said yes. Well, what kind of exit poll is that? They only asked 18-year-olds? Like, what? I don't.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of
That
sense.
doesn't make any sense.
Well, they're probably bullshitting. Like, oh yeah.
Excited. If Kamala Harris is president, you would feel 28% scared, 23% excited, 26 optimistic, 20% concerned. So how do you go from concerned to scared? Like, some are like, I'm not scared, I'm just concerned about the getting, raped and murdered in my hometown by a migrant. I'm just a little
Right.
concerned.
Right. A little, yeah. Let's see what X is saying.
Yeah, this is great. You are getting live breaking election news coverage. This is this is what they call team coverage from New York Times best-selling author Vincent Zandri and Gallow's Humor magazine assistant editor and writer Big Philly Smith. This is where you tune for the poll closings. I will tell a quick story while Vince is taking a look. Today at my poll, there was a construction worker in front of me, and we did the Sharpie like Scantron where you circle like you're in high school again, taking the final exam, and you feed it into the machine. And I had to wait 3 minutes because the lady's like, sir, you use check marks in the bubbles. And he's like, what? We have to fill in the whole bubble?
Yeah, you gotta fill
I
it
was
in.
like, yeah, fill in the fucking bubble. Like, did you ever go to school? Like, oh my God.
Did you
man.
take the SATs, asshole?
There were so many broads. See, I got to be honest. I felt the energy for Trump, but today in line, I saw a lot of like 300-pound broads with like flannels and crew cuts. I saw, some gender fluidity. I saw some shit that I don't know where these people, I think they're literally flown in because I've never seen these people when I go in to buy coffee somewhere or walk around.
Right.
I don't know where they came out of the woodwork to vote. So it got me pretty scared. And I will say this, I was voter number 88 in my district because they do the little in my little district, because in Pennsylvania, I don't know if they do it everywhere, but the lady writes a list manually to see just a list of voters in addition to the big book that you sign. It's like signing in at a fucking funeral, or guest book.
Yeah.
But I looked and I just saw D. I saw like 3/4 D for Democrat. But I don't know. A lot of people, I think, again, that's not even a fucking remotely a legitimate sample. That's just my experience. But I will say this. I think because of all the voter fraud, or at least perception of voter fraud 4 years ago, a lot of the MAGA people I know were like, did the early voting because they're like, I don't want the shit thrown out at the last minute. So I think there probably were more Democrats today. I mean, that's one theory.
As of this morning, I mean, the programs that I watch, the independent programs, were saying that Republicans have shown up like never before to early vote. That as of this morning, Republicans were showing up more than Dems, and independents too. But that was before noon, so I don't know what it is now. Elon Musk says the future of the world is at stake, and then J.D. Vance comments, "Go vote, do it right." I don't see anything.
I'll tell you, dude. Elon, I signed his little petition. He did the $1 million giveaway. And allegedly, I'm going to get a check for $100 at some point from his PAC. Any registered voter in Pennsylvania, if you sign this petition that said, "Oh, I love the First and Second Amendment," he's going to mail.
Is that legal? Can you do that?
Well, I saw some douchebag legal scholar. He's not paying you to vote. Although in some areas you can get paid to vote, but it's the PAC. Yeah.
That's funny. I mean,
they're not going to litigate it.
Joe Kennedy paid to have Jack.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you know what's funny? Just as a side note, like fucking, it's a shame Biden is completely senile, because you got to think after how they cucked him, you got to think he would go in and vote for Trump. I mean, as much as I dislike Joe Biden, the man is the sitting U.S. president. No one challenged him in the primaries. That would have been the
he got fucked. He got fucked
really. But listen, but Vince, Trump is an existential threat to democracy.
Right. Yeah.
The ironically named Democrat Party, they got billionaires and senators, Schumer, Pelosi, Obama, billionaires. They came in and said, "Look, Joe, this is the president of the United States." They went in. This is the shit you hear about in shithole countries. They went in and said, "You're not allowed to run anymore. You're going to back out." And he did. And it's like,
can you imagine what that conversation was like?
You know what? I think some of it was like, if I had to speculate, I think there was probably some money. There was probably some assurances that Hunter would, be protected and
Yep.
whatever other shit that they're involved with. I think it
Yep.
was one of those. And you know how politics works. It's like the whole Epstein Island thing. Like,
Right.
all these guys have shit on them,
Right.
Like,
Imagine how pissed Dr. Jill is.
oh God, yeah,
I think
she's
Dr. Jill
yeah.
is going to be more pissed if Kamala pulls us out.
I
That's
have
my
no
prediction.
idea. She was pulling strings. I mean, she's actually from this area where I'm at now. But I met Joe Biden when I went to law school in Delaware, and Joe Biden, he taught a class on Saturdays on, ironically, the constitutional law.
That must have been great.
And I didn't take it. Listen, I actually really fucking regret this. I was registered for his class in 2006, so he was still a senator. And I remember it was like a couple weeks before the semester, and I looked at it and I'm like, now I went to law school at night while I worked full time. And I looked and I'm
Right.
like, do I really want to go every Saturday morning for 3 hours? So
Yeah.
I dropped it. I remember even my brother at the time was like, he could be like a vice president one day. Like, here, not that he was a Biden fan, but it's like, it's kind of a
Right.
cool to hear what the fucking guys to say.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I did meet him. He did lecture us. He did give a lecture. It was closed door in 2004. And this is Biden. He was completely with it, like mentally fast talking, slick politician. So this is not
Right.
Sleepy Joe. This is
Right.
Biden in his prime. And I got to tell you, and I was a Democrat still. I was still holding on to being a Democrat. And I got to tell you, I walked out of there. My buddy I mentioned earlier, the Russian dude, was always right wing. He looked, he said, "What did you think of your boy?" He was the worst. He just oozed every stereotype about. We didn't have the word swamp back then, but it described it perfectly. Because I turned to my buddy and I said, "Wait a minute, this guy just told us his life story. He never worked a real job ever. He
Never.
went from law school to the Senate. Like, how is that even possible?" And that was 20 years ago. Exactly. It was 2004. And I thought, I don't like that, man. There's
He was an
something.
old timer in the Senate back then.
Yeah, exactly. And he was talking to his buddy Kerry, who also went in, who was running that year. And I remember Joe saying, he
Yeah.
told us, he said, I was just up in Martha's Vineyard with John Kerry, and I helped him prepare for this debate. And what we did was we made a list of every foreign country and leader we could think of, and just to know the issues, because George W. But then this was crazy. Joe could not stop talking about how much he loved George W. Bush. The people were booing him. Biden told us, this is exactly his words. He said, "I spent more time one-on-one with Bush than any other member of the Senate in the Oval Office." He bragged about that. And then he said, if you guys were in class with George W. Bush here at this school, you would think to yourself, wow, he's really smart. He would probably do great if he only read the book. That was his comment. That was his comment. So, but now Biden, he got fucked over. He said this is the United States of America, people. Our president right now was told, you have to quit. Even though you were elected in the primaries, you're not allowed to run again.
Right. Yep. And they just handed it to her.
Yeah.
Elon Musk says men are voting in record numbers. The cavalry has arrived.
Well, that's another thing. I see a lot of young kids who are now old enough to vote for the first time. And it's kind of going back to what we said, how times have changed. It's now rebellious to be like a MAGA Republican. It's the cool rebel thing to do. Oh, no shocker here. NBC announces Kentucky, the projected winner is Donald Trump by 72% so far. So there's eight votes to 270 right there. Eight electoral votes to 270. All the breaking news you need, folks.
Right. Well, what I can't understand is my writer friends in New York, friends in New York or whatever. it's unconscionable that they would vote for censorship. To
Right.
me, I put up a post on X today and on Substack. I'm voting for anti-censorship and for the reestablishment of sovereign borders. Now, I don't think that's too much to ask.
Right.
And like, how can you be a writer and vote for censorship? I just, the two are just, it's like putting a square peg in a round hole, or that.
Yeah, I think well, maybe they're either not real writers, which that there could be a case made for that. They're just paint by numbers, or that I think a lot of this is what's sad. The people pulling the strings have a nefarious agenda, but the rank and file libtards, um, like some of these Manhattan literary people, they honestly believe it's not censorship, it's common sense and common decency to be woke and to shut down this violence of triggering language. Like, to them, they honestly, basically, I'm saying some of these rank and file leftists are so dumb that they just think it's obvious. Like, of course, why would anybody basically, here's another way to put it. They view any contradictory language as yelling fire in a crowded theater. So of
Right.
course you wouldn't want to protect that speech. Like, they really believe it. I think the people that started all this at the top, they don't
Social
believe it.
justice warriors.
Right. They're just like, plus it's cool. Like, some people just go along to get along. If you're like I don't think they exist anymore, but if you're like a mid list, or let's say you're one of those propped up bestsellers,
Right.
life's pretty good. You have an agent, maybe you have a couple deals in the works for developing your books into a TV show or movie.
Right.
You
Yeah.
got money, your kids go to school at like a nice Manhattan school or wherever with the other
Right.
rich kids. It's probably just easier to go about life.
To go along.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I think you and I are men of principles.
You have to be. Life's too short.
I think also we're hot Italians, like, and
Yeah, hot-blooded, yeah.
like we're not afraid of a fight, and it just is the way it is. There's Tim again. No intelligent person can be a woke liberal. Just think about how many contradictory views you have to keep in your head at the same time to be one. Too true. I wish Tim, give us an example of contradictory views.
Yeah, that's a great question. I could name them, but I'd like to hear what you're talking about. I think we can all think of them right away. I know one.
Tim's a Boston guy, and
okay, there you go. So we got the whole trifecta: Boston, New York, and Philadelphia, right down.
Yeah. Tim's not afraid of a fight.
Guy.
All right, so Tim answers: America is a racist, sexist hellhole, followed by people need to come across the border for a better life. Like, so,
right.
True. And it's
beautiful example. Well, very eloquent. And by the way, another thing is like,
in other words, we need to have compassion, and let's at the same time send them to swing states.
Yeah, exactly.
So that we can make the whole country California. Yeah, good, Tim.
Yeah, that's a great example. And it's also funny. Like, it's like, oh, we need to fight misogyny, and women are just like born victims. But we'll let men pretend to be women and abuse us and take over all our sports and everything else.
Right. I mean, listen, on a personal level, and they're very good neighbors. But actually, I have to whisper a little bit. But the people who just moved in above me, and I'm used to this because I go to North Africa a lot.
Right.
Follow Sharia law, full burqa, the whole bit. Now,
I'm gonna get
the contradiction.
Yeah.
Is shouldn't the left wing shouldn't a lot of women be like, you don't have to do that here. You should not do that.
Well, I
And,
remember Vince at the Big Pussy Hat March in 2017 when they did the women's march, they had like Muslim women there, and they were making these like I remember one woman who spoke said some quote that like, "Oh, Muhammad is loves women" or something like. So it's exactly what you're saying. Like they're like, "Well, we want to." It's back to what Timothy's saying. It's
right,
like we want to be inclusive, but we have to include the anti-women shit.
right,
It's the Venn diagram doesn't work, like
right,
Timothy
right,
eloquently said. Like you just can't. But I think the answer to it, because you say, how can any intelligence? Some of them are just absolute morons, but I also think they just don't. Whenever I'm debating a liberal,
right,
they normally crumble right after the very first follow-up question. Like
right,
they'll say, it's as simple as this, like, oh, Donald Trump's racist. And then you'll say, oh, what makes you say that? And then just nothing. And if you
right,
get one
right,
that's like
right,
vaguely, I don't want to say intelligent, but has any
right,
sense at
right,
all, will say, well, he doesn't, he wants to build a wall.
right. Well, he's
And
Hitler and he's fascist, yet
right,
he has Jewish,
right,
grandchildren,
grandchildren, yeah, and he
and a son-in-law, and I think his daughter converted, and they'll be like, well, they're a fascist too.
right, they're fat, they're self-hating, fat, yeah, or like it's
Jews
just
for fascism.
it's an identity game. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
an identity game. Like that's the thing.
right,
If you're not the right identity, which
right,
that includes us right now because we have so much privilege as I
right,
work my two
right.
jobs and have to fucking you
Yeah,
know
because look at you. Oh, so here's an update. So far we got Trump at 19 and
right.
Carmela is at 3. So
I
she got
see
Vermont.
it.
She
Yep.
got Vermont. The 7 people in Vermont voted. I
She
love
she
Vermont
kicked the
actually.
field goal. She kicked the
Right.
field
She
goal.
kicked the field goal. But
Yeah.
that's funny.
If Trump went for two and fucking failed. This is
Yeah. So
great.
so far we have a football game.
Yeah. So this is great, man. Is it?
But I mean,
Listen,
but I
they're
mean, like,
stupid.
look at the people who are running on the left and the right as well. Like, you can't tell me that. All right, who's the North Carolina senator? Lindsey Graham
Yeah.
and uh, okay, Adam Schiff.
Yeah.
Who's the some of the names are escaping me. You can't tell me some of these guys don't have creepy basement rooms. Some of these guys are just absolute freaks.
Oh,
And
well,
I'm
Lindsey
talking
Graham.
both
Listen,
sides. They
Lindsey,
got to have like I mean, I could bet you like Lindsey Graham, like
he-
at the end of the day, just goes
he's
down to his basement, like knocks on the wall, like, and the door opens and there's a candle burning, and like he lights a
it's
few
very
more candles,
ritualistic. Yeah.
right? And like an upside down cross, and he's got
Oh, we got to write this shit.
video footage of Adam Schiff
It's
and his tidy whities, and he's just
it's
and
beautiful, Lindsey Graham.
he's just like
I'm
like
just
oh,
yeah,
you just
especially
know,
Lindsey, especially Rhino Lindsay. Like I could just hear him
yeah.
now. Like it's I'm perfectly straight. I'm just a confirmed bachelor.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. You know
I
what?
don't even
I don't. I come from the school of thought. I don't fucking care
right. I don't
what
care.
you do behind closed doors or who you do it with, so long as it's legal, so long as you're not hurting a child, so long as it's private and you're not pushing it on anybody else, especially children. I
Well,
don't care if you
I
sleep
want to do the opposite now. That's the
with a giraffe. I could care less.
problem.
It's just
Well, you're
that
gonna
it's
need a ladder if you're
right.
gonna
It's right.
take it
You
from
just
me.
it's just that sometimes I get the feeling that some of these people want power because they are so powerless
Right.
otherwise, because they're such freaks without this. And so they're like, let's let them swallow well or swallow well. Like, he's one of them. I mean, like,
Yeah. I think, dude,
let's go. I'll go into politics. I'll go into
you know
politics
what? I don't.
because
I just say I would word it like I don't trust anybody. Like I'm immediately suspicious of people that want to be a national politician. Like
I
something's
am too.
definitely wired wrong. In fact, I don't know if I could ever like Trump might be my last, I mean, there's Vance that has hope, but I'm kind of full
Tulsi
like,
Gabbard has hope, but she's not going to
yeah, like
last.
I
She's not
like,
going to stay in that shit.
no, I like the fact that the reason I
She's too
really,
smart.
right, like I like that Trump is an outsider. That's
Yeah.
why I voted for him and I was attracted to
Right.
his campaign. So I
Right.
don't know
Do you
if I
think he
could.
needs to be doing this?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like he doesn't have to be doing it. So like what I'm saying is I don't think not I don't think I know. I know I can never go back to the old like what I did before like oh I'm going to vote for fucking stiff Mitt Romney or I'm going to vote for
Yeah, he's
McCain
another
who was
winner.
like
John
these
Kerry. Yeah.
yeah like these are people I
Look at
vote
my hair.
yeah. Oh, it's horrible, dude. You got Mitt Romney like just fucking just a total stiff and just
Let me ask you a
apologize.
question.
Yeah.
Not to interrupt you, but let me
No,
ask you a
please
question.
do.
Do
We're
you
just
think
bullshit.
now this is not beyond the realm,
All right.
but do you believe it is a uniparty, in my opinion, but do you
Right.
believe that these people actually do belong to like some sort of secret organization or
Well,
that they all like get together for some sort of it's
there's
almost I'm not saying there's Satan
like a
worshipers
eyes
or anything
wide
like that,
shut
but
cult.
but some sort of like we're in the club.
Yeah.
We're in the club and this is what we do for our initiation and this is
Yeah. Well, dude, I mean,
and power and money is behind it.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there's a lot of people talking about this. Like, you have the whole Epstein Island thing, you have the P. Diddy
Right. Which
thing.
they're scared to death about.
You also have, right. You also have the old, like Skull and Bones society, like secret
Right.
societies.
Right.
Somebody
Right.
on YouTube that's really good, and I don't know how he's platformed here, but there's a guy, Mark Dice. He's got almost 2 million subscribers, but
Wow.
it's a miracle to find him in the algorithm because this is stuff he talks about all the time. Like, I'm trying to think of the name of it. Like, some of this they do in plain sight. There's that weird organization in California. I'm trying to find the name, but they have a retreat where it's like politicians, business leaders. They have like this weird statue, and oh my god, let me see.
Yeah.
Mark Dice, California cult. Oh god, it's so weird. Like if people look at once I find the name, um, oh man, this guy writes a bunch of books about all this shit.
Mark Dice.
Bohemian Grove,
Mhm.
Bohemian.
Yes, I've heard of this. Yes.
Yeah, and they have like this weird. What's funny is I'm literally on the CIA's website. They have a memo on this Bohemian Grove. They have a map, and it's yeah, like they literally just they have these weird ritual, and it makes you wonder. It's like, hey, if you guys want to have a like, it makes sense that a bunch of billionaires and politicians would want to get together and bullshit since they run the
Right.
world.
Right.
But like, why do you have to have weird icons and burning torches and shit? Like,
Right. Right.
just have like a seafood open bar and some like seafood. Why do you need a fucking like? It looks like when Gilligan would wander to the other side of
Right.
the island and
Why can't you have the wilted salad,
right?
the chicken
Like you
cordon
have the
bleu,
fucking sorbet,
and the open
a
bar? You're gonna
DJ.
get fucked up anyway, right? And you
Right,
stop at
like
McDonald's on the way home.
yeah, nobody's gonna begrudge you that you have a nice buffet there,
Yeah.
surf and turf, but you have to have like a fucking Easter Island statue that everybody like, drains their blood onto or something. It's like
But
you're
but
gonna
but but that is it goes against. I mean, that is a direct affront to the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not worship
yeah, the false
false
yeah, it is weird.
false
It's
idols.
funny. And these are the
You
same
almost
people.
have to do that. You almost have to
Yeah,
swear an allegiance not to God. Almost like obviously the old time communists, the Bolsheviks,
right.
no God, no God. From
No,
now on,
God's
it's just
and Marx, it's the opium of the masses. And
right, right.
I mean, well, Marx hated even just the family. He told you your own family is shit. Like
And that's why there's I think the left wing now is
they
going
want
full
to train the
Marxist because
kids.
they
Yeah,
don't want
yeah.
they don't want families anymore at
No,
all.
well,
Doing
families
everything
are a
they can
threat.
Yeah.
Well, look, we're both fathers, and we both, have parents, whatever, siblings. It's most normal people just every day randomly pick. Like,
Right.
I don't know a single parent, myself included, that wouldn't take a bullet for my kids.
Sure.
So that's a pretty fucking strong bond that someone's
Right.
willing to do. So if you
Right.
destroy those kind of bonds, people are going to topple. Like,
Right.
I would, my mother still with me. I got my brother. Like, these are people that I would die for without a second
Right.
thought.
Right.
And that's pretty threatening when you want everybody to just give up all their property and follow the rules of some fucking committee in a hidden,
Right.
Bohemian Grove. Oh my
Right.
God, I gotta find some visuals. You should
Yeah.
write about this. You already have. I'm literally going to download and read this week. I saw this before. Your tarantulas at 30,000 feet.
Oh, this is the one that's going to win the Pulitzer, dude.
I want to read it because it's so
going to be
much.
like, and now for the Pulitzer Prize
Yeah.
in literature goes.
No, I got a better one, Vince. You're
Vincent
going to
win for tarantulas.
You're going to win the Nobel Prize, and then we're all going to hear you go. The writer's life is a lonely life.
Yes.
It would not be. Yeah, the fucking.
I should have had John Hemingway on with us, but.
I don't know. I might have
writing is a lonely life.
Right.
They try to palliate you with.
The writers. Groups for writers. This was after the stroke.
Right.
Yes,
right.
Groups for writers may quell the writer's loneliness, but may not. Dude, that was a badass.
It was so unnaturally spoken, but it was so good.
Oh, it was beautiful. He said, and I love the allusion to The Old Man of the Sea because that's my absolute favorite book of all time. When he goes, the writer has to go far out, further than anyone else has gone. And you're like, like, he's like, you can't just, he's like, he said something like how easy the task of writing would be if you simply had to rewrite differently what has already been written. He's like, but no, you must go out deep to where no one's been. And I'm picturing Santiago with the line on his arm.
And that's what it's all about. Yeah, that's what it was all about. I tell you, one of the proudest moments of my life, John, if you're listening, was when John asked me to write the foreword to his new book.
Oh,
and I was like, wow, how did I get here? Because years ago, like, the whole reason I started this was because I wanted to be like Hemingway.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I talked about it before, but Hemingway, not only was his writing fantastic, but as a young kid who I wanted to be a writer when I was 12, 13 years old, and to have a writer you could look up to who's like a tough guy and masculine. Like, I'm from a blue collar neighborhood. Writing it wasn't. You felt a little weird to come out and be like, "Hey, I want to be."
He broke the mold. I mean, up until that time, everybody was sort of like kind of fruity and intellectual or whatever. And like, he comes out and he's like boxing and stuff.
Yeah,
boxing and hunting and
fucking getting wasted. And the thing is, though, like, now I was talking to Matthew about this. Matthew Lewis, another great contemporary author. We were talking about this one day on the phone, and I was like, "Hey, like, the irony is, like, men, invented writing. Like, it's like it shouldn't be seen as like an effeminate thing to do. It's normal. Like, God gave us brains and a higher creative power. Like, we write things, we create. That's what we do. We create realities. I shouldn't have said create reality. Now people are gonna be like, so I can pick my gender. No, I mean, we're world builders, civilization builders. So fiction is a practice in that, and it gets your mind active and stretches the human imagination and inspires people to do great things. Western civilization was built on this great art. Like, even though The Old Man and the Sea will always be my favorite book just because of the time and place, I think if someone said, well, what do you think the objectively greatest novel ever written was? I just read it for the first time 4 years ago. And I know it's divisive because it's old and difficult, but I read Don Quixote, and it's so fucking awesome because this dude Cervantes
Yep.
Tough dude.
I agree. I haven't read it in 30 years, but I should
Yeah,
go back to it.
it's first of all, it's funny, it's emotional, there's adventure, but this guy did shit in it was, I guess, I don't know if it was the 1505 or 1605. He invented
I don't know.
shit. He did metafiction, stories within
Right.
stories, flash. He invented the comic sidekick.
Love metafiction. Yeah.
Yeah, he invented all this shit that I, as like a fucking moron, thought was invented by like postmodernists 40 years ago. And this dude
Right.
just did it for the hell of it. But that book is, but that's my example of like, that's one of the foundational texts of Western civilization. And it's like, okay, that's what men do. We build shit like that. So Hemingway recaptured that. He's like, you don't have to be like a fucking fruity, like, and the guy's great. So of course, another reason, kids, if you're listening, Hemingway, they've tried many times, but they've never succeeded. I feel like the literati, especially, have tried to cancel Hemingway so many times,
They
and
can't.
they can't, because every mainstream, every contemporary fiction now, his whole prose style is ripped off. Like, people don't even realize they're writing in Hemingway's. He got stripped down all the shit, the flowery stuff, and they
And
keep
and
trying.
he's too beloved
Yeah,
globally.
yeah, people love him, and yeah, I'm
In
sure he travels.
every single country, just about. And you can't escape him in Europe. It'll be like Hemingway ate here.
Yeah, that's
Hemingway slept here.
incredible.
You know, and it's just because there's been an entire industry
And by the way, as a
wrapped around.
side note, because there's a lot of talk nowadays in self-publishing of like, "Wow, how do I become a millionaire?" You got to like, writers need to realize it was never, like a guy like Hemingway. From all the documentaries I've seen, he just married well all billion times. Like, he
Oh
found
yeah,
lots of
he
money.
married. Yeah,
Yeah,
he married his first wife, and she had a trust fund enough for
right,
them to go to Europe, of
right.
course. And
Smart
then
dude.
she fucked up and allowed her, like Uncle George, to invest in property in Florida that ended up being a swamp. So
Oh,
he kind of falls in with Pauline Pfeiffer, and
right.
Pauline Pfeiffer at the time, this is John's great grandmother, great grandmother,
Yeah,
no, great grandmother actually, and she was as rich.
right.
She
That's where
was
he got
as
the Key
she was like
West.
the equivalent of a billionaire at the time.
Right, like, that's where he
Right.
got, like, the Key West place. So, like,
Yeah,
when
the
I was
boat.
growing up, I thought,
The,
"Oh, writers are rich. Look at Hemingway. He got to live
I
in,
did
like,
too. I
yeah."
fell for it.
I thought,
I
"Oh,
was
he
like,
lived in Cuba. He had, like, he had the
right.
Finca Vij I can't fucking pronounce shit.
Yeah.
And then he
Like
had
I
and
thought
then
the same thing. I was like, oh well, this is
right,
how you do
right.
it. You know, like
And
yeah,
see, and my other, and this will bring us right back to the election and politics. Another thing was my other kind of idol early on was, of course, Stephen King, because it was the early
right,
'90s, late '80s, and
right.
it's like, oh, he's a zillion. That's what happens when you're a writer. They'll make every book will become a movie. So we know who he voted for today, probably while wearing a fucking mask.
No, yeah. It's amazing. Like I'm not saying that for instance, Harlan Coben, who he's
Mhm.
generous enough, and I've had dinner with him many times and whatever.
Nice,
But he's and he's blurbed me. It was nice, but years ago. But I haven't seen him in years either. But he's married to a surgeon, you know,
right?
and that helps.
Yeah, you see that a lot, dude.
You know,
Once I
I'm not
became
saying that he doesn't
no,
make
no,
a
no,
ton of
I
money
got you, dude.
especially now, But
I've I've gotten wise to that as an adult. Like, I remember, you know, you look into a lot of these authors, and it's like, you know, oh, yeah, I'm trying to think of examples of, or they have the day job. They're like the
right,
tenured professor, or
right,
that's a lot of these authors. Very few of them made $1 zillion, but I think it's a healthy. I'm not trying to be negative. I actually think it's a positive thing, because have a sigh of relief that that's not the
Sure.
standard. The standard is write with integrity,
Right.
do what you want to do, and you'll find, look at some of the most beloved writers, like including Hemingway, people that had the balls to write in their own voice
Right.
found an audience. Like because it's going to appeal to somebody. Like it's even in our small scale, like you do really well with your books, and this Gallows humor, I told, Matthew, when we started it, I said, listen, man, I'm just gonna like write and how I talk. And I thought like that's what I'll do. And
And look how well it's doing. It's doing great. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like we have a few thousand subscribers, and it's great because
Fantastic.
I don't sit, we do revise and we do edit, but what's funny is like we don't do navel gazing over like jokes. Like I just think of stuff that hits me in the moment, and that's kind of our secret sauce is like, did we laugh at each other's stuff or did we laugh right away when we wrote it? But that's an example of like, hey, like you don't, and we work for a living. Like that's what's funny. We both work, and even though we have paid subscribers and stuff, it's like we're not millionaires, but we have integrity and we're having a blast, and we have readers. People read our stuff. Like,
well, I remember one of the things that burst my bubble early on.
Yeah.
Early on was when I was reading a biography on Faulkner.
Yeah.
I'm talking. I'm still in my 20s, and Faulkner's got to have a job, and he writes like as they lay dying while he's working in a power plant.
Yeah,
at night, and I'm like, this isn't romantic.
Right.
This isn't hunting lions.
Yeah.
This isn't like running with the bulls in Spain. This
Right.
isn't Paris as a movable feast.
Right.
This isn't Italy. I'm like, you couldn't. And here these, and you have Faulkner who's like 5'5",
right,
and just this little man, and you have Hemingway who's your height, and a big man, but these guys are like button heads publicly, like who's the better writer?
Yeah,
who's the better writer or whatever?
That's this Hemingway called Faulkner a fucking drunk or something. It's like
because he was.
Yeah, but it's funny. It's like the pot called the.
The pot calling the.
But I think it's even funny. Like some of these guys, too. Like
literally, I think not to interrupt you, but I think Hemingway suspected that Faulkner would write while under the influence, because some of that, like some of the stuff, like is like, and I've read everything.
I'm not a Faulkner fan at all. I never.
Some of it is just like, dude.
Yeah, I don't.
You're losing me.
Faulkner. I never liked Faulkner. And I put them in the category of like James Joyce, where I feel like they're intentionally fucking with the reader. Like I don't like that. Like it's okay to write a difficult book, like
Henry Miller would write difficult stuff, but
but I liked Henry Miller. So like, yeah, that's a great example. I was going to go to like Cormac McCarthy, where it's difficult, but it's worth the effort, and it seems like they honestly are trying to do something that is their own voice, and they're trying to create an experience for the reader. But I feel like people like James Joyce, again, another renowned drunk who probably wrote drunk.
I couldn't get.
No, it's unreadable, and it's like you have to pretend you love it, to be this big serious reader. But no, man, I mean, that's where Hemingway opened my eyes too. I was like, wow, I can understand what he's doing. He's not trying to. He's actually trying to. Another writer I really, really love, even though this probably makes me a little bit of a douchebag, is and I admit it's not for everybody, but I love Raymond Carver, man.
Dude, Raymond Carver is as much an influence on me as Hemingway is.
Dude, because
my sons as well.
Yeah, I got to tell you, man, Raymond Carver, I reread it constantly because I love his style. And he was, people say he wrote about nothing, but he's similar. I really do. I don't know who called him this, but they said he was like the American Chekhov. And I actually really like Chekhov.
I think that's a good similarity.
Like Chekhov, I dig. Like you read Chekhov and you're like, is the fucking guy can write about a guy like drinking coffee at work, and by the end you're like, wow, I was really moved by that, and you mean it somehow. I don't.
Or Gogol from the Russian,
Yeah,
the Russian,
or,
close to that.
And
he
Chekhov was a doctor, by the way. See the money, like he had to be a physician to.
Right. Nothing wrong with that, and that's what they were. I mean, oh, by the way, just an update.
Yep.
Trump scored another 3 points.
23. All right, so we got some field goals in there.
I mean,
Indiana for all.
It's 23-3.
23-3.
So far, folks.
And we're
not going to stay here all night doing this, but these are the early counties. But to get back to what you're saying, Ray Carver, actually, I got so into Carver,
right,
that I actually, yeah, you're right, Frank. They did. That I couldn't read him anymore because it was starting to become disturbing to me. Because I almost felt like, okay, one of the best short stories I think Hemingway ever wrote was in our, I think it's the one from In Our Time. It's the one where like the husband and the wife are having an argument in the cabin, and he walks out and the door slams.
Right.
He walks around the cabin, and in the open window he just says sorry. I forget what the name of it is, but anyway, and also Big Two-Hearted River or whatever.
I was just gonna say,
which is extremely disturbing. It is an extremely disturbing story. Right? Was that?
Was the Two-Hearted River the rape one with the farm girl?
No, that was up in Michigan.
Oh, up in Michigan.
Which he couldn't get published for years.
Right. But that's a powerful story.
It's an extremely powerful story. And but Ray Carver, I had to stop reading it because it was like he was starting to give me anxiety.
Yeah.
And I remember I did all right, now I'm gonna be like, oh, Vin, literary Vin.
No, fuck it. We're educated. But see, the right and libertarian, we're educated guys. We're intellectuals.
Right. But I did Breadloaf Writers Conference in '91. And Tim O'Brien was there, and I worked with him and whatever. The first thing Tim O'Brien said to me, because we had like a social that first night, he's like, because he was still young at the time. In '91, he was like in his 40s. He's like, dude, you got any coke? I'm like, did you just like immediately look at me and say like, this guy's doing it?
He had you,
yeah, he had me pegged. But
now Carver's wild, man. But I thought you were going to say something else.
What I was going to say was, a lot of those people worked with his editor, and they knew him. Like Amy Hempel was there, and they knew Ray Carver intimately. And and they used to look at me and they used to say to me like, "Oh, you're the Ray Carver guy."
Oh man,
you're the Ray Carver guy. You're the one who's into Ray. And
dude, he's so good. Ray Carver. See, first of all, I love, and again, speaking of like making money and not making money, I'm one of the 1/10% of readers who love short stories. That should make Frank happy in the chat.
Sure.
But like, I think it's because I first read short stories because it was easier. I was young. And I just, people like Ray Bradbury, Poe, Hemingway, even Stephen King back then. So I always stuck with that. And then I graduated like the Chekhov, the Carver. I really love, I was going to say, the couple Kafka stories that are like, I think the Metamorphosis is the greatest short story ever written.
Oh.
Because it's what people forget. You can always tell who didn't read it. They just know it's a roach, a dude. You can always tell because they don't know the dark humor about the work stuff and the family. Like, it's almost like the movie Office Space, an early version of it.
And it's such an easy book to read.
Right. It's like 60 pages, but it's funny because I saw a meme and it was like, it said like, you in 2024 are too tired. Like, you hit the snooze button, but a young Gregor Samp says like, shit, I woke up a roach. Now I'm going to be late for work. Like, but like, I guess but like Carver, dude, there was some like, he wrote this story called Tell the Women We're Leaving or Tell the Women We're Going. And it's just, the whole story is these two high school buddies that go out for a drive and the
Right.
one guy like kills a broad for no, like that's the whole story, but it's so friggin' wild. And another guy who's like nobody knows about, so I'm gonna become hipster literary, is oh my god, I almost have to look at my bookshelf. Oh
I'm looking at.
fuck.
I'm just while you're doing this. I don't mean to be. I'm multitasking.
No,
Looking
I'm
for
doing it too because
results
you're
and stuff.
both. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Hold on. Shit. I know how to find him. Oh, great short story author who's dead as well. And don't get him confused with his son, who's like an Oprah book club. But Andre Debuse,
Oh yeah, Andre Debut.
he
Yeah,
wrote
yeah.
a short story called The Winter Father, which is about like a divorced dad and his kids.
I
And
never read him, so I can't comment on it. But I
yeah,
certainly know.
he was a good short story writer, but the son
Right.
writes like not literary, like you know. Wow, man. Sorry to distract everybody from the early results, but we're filling airtime with literary
Well,
discussions
this
because
is the writer's life. I mean,
the writer's life, man. And
and everything sort of. I mean,
and free
I have to
speech.
tell you, I just turned 60. Well, just turned 60 in July. That's like 6 months
Yeah,
ago.
yeah. Hard to
But
believe.
but I have to say, I mean, I've been doing it full time for 25 years, and I've
Beautiful.
had 2 divorces, and I've gone through years where I've made goose
Right.
egg, and I've gone through years where I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars. And eventually, you learn that the highs are not all that high, the lows are not all that low, and it eventually just sort of evens out to a place where you just sort of get it. And if you can survive a certain number of years, if and if you can learn how to write so well that you don't need a lot of drafts, and that you just learn it, you learn to become a professional,
Right.
um, then you will last, I think, forever. But also, I guess what I'm trying to get at here is, like, I'm 60 years old, and Russell Crowe just said this the other day about acting. Like, and I'm just as hungry, if not more hungry,
Right.
than I was in my 20s. Like, I write. In fact, I write now every day. And like, I used to like consciously take days off and do now, unless I'm on an airplane or something like that, because I sleep on the airplanes. I drug myself to sleep because that's the time. If you're traveling,
Yeah.
that's when, if you're on a train or a plane, you try to get some shut eye. But I think I'm more hungry and more obsessed than ever,
That's
which
awesome.
is what in so many words, I'm trying to get across.
I you know, it's great to talk to a real writer.
Not like you're not.
Well, no. I just mean I'm still a baby in it. Like it's funny. I was telling this is an interesting thing. I was talking about how I wanted to be a writer at a very young age. I was 11 or 12, and
Yeah.
I remember for my birthday I got an electric typewriter because this is before Windows. This is
Yeah.
1991, so that was good technology.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
I got a subscription of Writer's Digest, and I submitted stories. And the funny thing about it, and I didn't realize this till I got older, obviously, is you know, I was a gifted reader, right? So, and I knew where all the commas went, the other punctuation, and I had a good vocabulary, and I was well read for my age. But what's interesting is you're 12 years old, you have zero life
Yeah.
experience. So my
Yeah.
short stories would be like absolutely absurd, where it's like,
Right.
I remember it would be like, well, I want to write a detective story. Well, the cop probably has a wife. Let me put a broad in there and
Right.
like her whole, she walks on and says, "Are you having trouble finding a suspect?" And then he's like, "Yes, honey,
That's great.
I'll leave later." So like, even
That's
though
awesome, though.
but it's funny to think that, like, you start out, but you have to do that. You got to go through
Right.
the juvenilia or whatever. But
Right.
it is about, we were talking in the green room about your late friend, um,
Les Egerton, God bless him.
Les Egerton. I don't want to disrespect him, but forget, God rest his soul. And I know Matthew knew him too from Gallow, from Gutter Books. he wrote a book on voice that's been on my to be read pile for a long time, and that's what it's about. And Gallow's humor has given me, maybe I'm, as much as I would love to be a Raymond Carver or an Ernest Hemingway, I write these humorous takes. Like, I think some of my best stuff, some of the greatest writing I've done, some of my
it's beautiful.
It's the most beautiful
story.
Everybody says so. Everybody.
We're all trying to get our trouble.
I wrote a short story. I said this is the greatest. But anyway, I think
large French fries.
Everybody thinks so. I wrote. I think the shit that I write on Gallow's humor, that's kind of, I have a that I put in kind of slice of life, but I make a bigger thing. Like I had a thing. Get ready to be triggered. I wrote in kind of my personal first big hit was a little piece called Dial R for Retard, and I was talking about how I was from the last generation that grew up with a landline, and how that's how I know how to talk to people. And kids these days, they're texting. But like, that's the kind of shit, like, where I take a personal experience, slice of life, and then project it out onto what I think it might say about the culture. And that's the kind of stuff we do. And, I think, Matthew does a great job of taking he looks at the big picture and like is like a philosopher, or is quite philosophical in his analysis. We balance each other out.
So we have Gallow's humor. It's doing great on Substack. Where is it going?
I think there's a couple places it's going. One is not. I know. One is we've written quite a bit of words so far as a team. So I think in the somewhat near future, some themed collections available in Kindle and print are a logical step. I'm working on kind of I don't want to call it an autobiography, but kind of what's the French term for a roman à clef? Is that
a roman à clef? Yes.
Yeah, I don't fucking know. I tried to be a sissy and do the French. But no, really, what we're working on now, I don't think there's any reason to keep it a secret, but we're hammering out a podcast.
Awesome.
We've been testing. It's really just a matter of, hammering out the technology and the ideas of because audio is a different medium than prose, so thinking of what's going to work better in audio.
I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, and that's, thank you. And we've been testing different stuff. We're not fucking scientists in a lab, but I did a video last week on Gallow's humor on Substack, just talking about what it's like on the ground here in a Pennsylvania swing state. And I wanted to see what it'd be like to just bullshit. And this is helping me too. Like, I've been looking for an excuse to talk to you again. And it's great to just kind of
never need an excuse, Big Philly. You can always.
Well, yeah, we can come on more stuff. I'm going to, so I think that's coming. I know, I do read your books, and I see stuff kind of come out. So I think another thing, and I tell Matthew this all the time in our emails, and I don't know if he is purposely ignoring it or like doesn't give a shit, but I always say, like, dude, I really want to be like you, like Xandri, like I want to write a crime novel just as a bucket list. I don't care if 3 people read it, but then I never write it. So that's like a personal thing I want to do at some point. It's just, I got to kind of sit down and write it, or maybe a short story collection, again, just for posterity.
You will. Yeah, no question you will.
Something when they come to the funeral, it'll be laid out with all the family pictures in the front of the church, like before mass. I'll have the short story.
And it'll be like that's $7, please.
Yeah, I'll have my first grandchild will be there, like
it'll be $7
if there's free speech. It brings us back to the election.
Yeah. So speaking of the election, last question for you.
Yep.
If Her Majesty Miss Kamala wins,
right,
what is going to be the Gallow's humor headline?
Oh my God!
I knew this would be a kick in the balls. I knew it.
I I think
And I don't
I
mean just
think
because suggesting it.
no,
I
there
mean
could
because
be a
you have to
few.
come up with it.
You know what? I think I'm gonna. This is, I really think that we're going to have to, as Americans, as patriots, we're going to have to offer to write Kamala's stated or not stated her inaugural speech. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll think of a good
Good idea.
inaugural speech, just to do my part as an American in the historical, the first whatever, the first hand-picked dictator of who didn't win any primaries and got
Right.
in. I think I will offer to write her inaugural speech. It'll be brief because it'll be unburdened by
By
the
what has happened.
prose of what has happened and been written. So it'll be like straight from our desk to your teleprompter, something like that. That's what
Right.
I'll do.
And if President Trump wins?
If President Trump wins, then I think I'm going to post my resume in it. Since I need some more money, I'm going to see if I can get a contractor job building the wall. They're going to need a lot of people to
It's
build
going
that
to be a
wall.
big, beautiful wall.
It'll be a beautiful wall, and they should have the wall hotel and casino, the wall
I
water
think that's
park.
where he made his mistake, and I think you're onto something there.
Yeah.
He didn't like the wall attractions, like
You
like you
could have
need
made
like
it like
rides and
eighth
stuff.
wonder of the world. That
Yeah.
could have been. That's actually fucking brilliant, Vince.
Yeah.
He could have sold it. Of course, mentioned in the footnotes. Oh yeah, it's to keep everybody out. But
Right.
that would be cool if it was like eighth wonder of the world, like Mount Rushmore. It's like the Great American Wall, like made it out of
Right.
like some marble facade, have like some art.
No, he should model it just like China. Like it should be big,
Right there,
small.
you go.
People can like walk it and like jog it, and and every 100 yards is a machine gun nest.
Yeah,
And it'd be like if you want to pay for the ammo, go for it.
You put quarters in. Who could work there? You get Harvey Stanbro, he rips your ticket in half. And
Harvey be like, God damn it, I'm gonna
there you go, guys.
Shoot me some Mexicali. No, Harvey, my Uncle Harvey, I love you. And
He's a great guy. Great
he is
writer.
the greatest.
Too.
And he's putting out a book like a week.
Yeah, well, that's what he does. He has no tolerance for any navel gazing bullshit. He's all about writing.
He goes into that writing studio,
which is cool looking. It's like an Adobe
at like 3 a.m.
I know,
and he doesn't finish until like dinner time.
and
and he treats it almost like it's a ranch. And he's like, and his wife is probably like, dinner's on the table, honey. Like,
yeah, you know what I love about that dude? The thing you're saying, he's such a generous dude. He always replies with when I ask.
He always is. Yeah.
One of the things I love about that guy is for all of he's a veteran. He's like a tough guy. I know he used to smoke cigars like I still do. He's like that tough guy. But what's funny is he's very he's got that kind of like metaphysical thing where he's like, my characters are real people in an alternative universe. Like he really like that woo-woo shit, which we all secretly like as like artists and writers. He's really into it, and that's what keeps him, I think, in that writer's cave for so long, as he's just in it.
And he will watch this. So shout out to you, Uncle Harvey.
Shout out to Harvey.
Uncle Harvey.
Bro, he's a great dude. Frank Theodad. I don't know if I pronounced your name right, brother. I'm sorry if I don't, but you wrote that.
That's it, Frank. That's how he does it. Theodad.
Yeah, he wrote a short story collection called Grind, which is, I would call it corporate horror, because he kind of takes, imagine Office Space, but a dark side of what it's like. Yeah. I'm looking forward to more stuff from him, and obviously I gotta plug my best bud. You gotta check out.
What else do you have? Else do you have, and where can we see you?
Matthew Lewis, publisher of Gallow's Humor and owner, publisher at Gutter Books. He wrote 2 phenomenal novels, and I'm not paid to say this because this is how I met the dude. He wrote a great book called The Wrong Man. It's a great
Great book.
noir.
I read it.
It's the guy. It's about. I actually have a paper copy. See this? Great friggin' book.
Great cover.
And then he wrote a book which is really more directly on point with what we're going through. It's a little more political on the head, but it's a great story because it's a great murder noir story. It's called Roots Down to Hell, and that'll give you an idea of the tone.
That one I haven't read yet, but I'm gonna.
Yeah, these are like he's like a Jim Thompson type dude where it gets pretty friggin' dark. Like he's noir. Like if I write, I kind of do like the quips and that kind of stuff. And I know you inject the humor too, Vince, and a lot of your stuff. It depends. You're good at like switching tones, I noticed. But check out. I got to plug his books because I love them, and I don't think a couple of them. He's got an award on one of them. So, and he actually has sold the movie rights to the wrong man. It's the option gets renewed, so that gives you an idea. And I wish that's actually I'll end with that because I could talk your ear off, but. When I first emailed him, I said, hey, it was a fan letter. I said, listen, I love your books.
Right.
I said, first of all, when's this movie coming out? Which then he explained to me how Hollywood works. And, but I also said,
been there, done that. Yep.
I said, when are you writing your third book? Like, I really want to read it. Like, I wish you would come out with a book a week. I'd read it. And he wrote back and he said, look, he has his own day job and a family to raise, just like, we all do. But he said, I got this other idea, and that was Gallow's humor. So that's why I'm sitting here today talking to one of my favorite authors because he created that platform. So go read Matthew Lewis's books.
So where can we find? I mean, I'm going to put Gallow's humor down below, everybody. But
absolutely,
tell us what's the best place to find it.
So I would go to gallowshumormag.com or gallowshumormag.substack.com. I think, those are the places to get us. It's free. It's completely free. The app Substack is free because I didn't know about it until you and Harvey went on. The app is free. It's free to subscribe to Gallow's Humor. We do about 3+ articles a week, like different types of content. We have non-woke humor and some commentary, cultural commentary. So it's a nice little mix. There is a paid option and there's more things to come. We're going to have a podcast, hopefully by the end of the year. So
can't wait for that. Big Philly, this is the longest podcast I've ever done. And it flew by. We could easily do 2 more hours.
Absolutely, man. I loved it.
You're one of the best guests.
That means a lot to me, man. I'm going to download immediately when we get off. I'm going to download the Tarantula book, Tarantulas at 30,000 feet, because I saw it's about 100 pages. I love novellas. I love short stuff, and I want to have some fun. So
it just is like if you want to escape for 2 or 3 hours.
That's what I want to do.
You're getting like you had a bad day, and you just want to just escape for 2 or 3 hours. I love writing those kinds of books. No publisher, no traditional publisher in the right mind would ever publish it. But Bear Media will publish it. And sometimes you just want to write something that you want to write, and just for the fuck of it, to entertain yourself. You know what I'm saying?
I agree, and that's a true artist, bud. So let's see what happens in the election. Everybody stay safe. Don't let the PSYOP convince you to do anything stupid. We're all going to survive. And thanks again. I was so happy when I saw you invited me on. So thank you so much. And I'll be back.
Let's do this more often. Let's definitely do it before the next election for sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it in a few months or whatever.
All right, Paisan. Thank you, man. Thanks for everybody for tuning in, and be sure to like, subscribe, share, do all the plugs, and make America